Hey, I'm Jana, the little sister.
And I'm Jeff, her big brother. Welcome to Sibling Rivalry, a podcast about our favorite sport, baseball.
This week on Sibling Rivalry Baseball, a champion has been crowned in Omaha.
And we have seen the most Manfreded uniforms ever. So let's distract ourselves with some SRBB headlines.
The creator of the reality TV series Cops, John Langley, has died. He died of an apparent heart attack while competing in the coast-to-coast Ensenada San Felipe 250 off-road race. He was 78. He is survived by his wife, 4 children, and 7 grandchildren.
Simone Biles is headed to Tokyo to defend her all-around gymnastics gold medal from the 2016 Olympics. She will captain Team USA that also includes Sunisa Lee, Jordan Childs, and Grace McCallum. Also representing the U.S. are individual competitors Michaela Skinner and Jade Carey. The 2021 Olympics in Tokyo start up on July 23rd and wrap it up on August 8th.
The spectator who caused a massive crash at the Tour de France is being sued by race officials. The woman who held a long banner on the sidelines of the race stuck the banner out a little too far, causing German cyclist Tony Martin to bike right into it. Martin fell, setting off a domino effect for competitors as cyclists behind him also fell. Tour de France officials will have a hard time finding the spectator as she has fled the country.
Kyle Busch kept Hendrick Motorsports from their 7th straight victory and from breaking the consecutive wins record set back in 1972. Busch drove his clutchless Toyota at the Pocono Raceway in Long Pond, Pennsylvania to his 2nd victory of the season and the 59th of his career. The left turn circuit heads out to Wisconsin next for Road America, a new road course event.
You can find these and past week's headlines on our website, siblingrivalrybb.com. Remember to rate and subscribe wherever you listen, and tell a friend to listen to the Sibling Rivalry Baseball Podcast.
We love our listeners. We want you to download and listen to the podcast and share it with others. We just ask you to acknowledge Sibling Rivalry Baseball Podcast as the source of the material. Please do not, except with our express written permission, distribute or commercially misuse the content.
It has been hot, sticky, and ugly. And I'm just talking about baseball, not the weather. We'll get to the sticky and the ugly in a minute. Right now, let's get to the hot and go to Omaha, where it has been sizzling, crazy baseball. The fans are going nuts. I think the whole state of Mississippi almost went to Omaha. I heard people today calling it Oma Vegas because they call Starkville Stark Vegas, the home of Mississippi State. And the Mississippi State fans, every time I saw Mississippi State play anytime during the College World Series, it never looked like there were fans for the other team there. So when last we checked, we were getting down to the nitty-gritty. NC State and Vandy were set to play, and Mississippi State and Texas were ready to play. Mississippi State knocked off Texas, and in a weird twist of things, Vandy knocked off North Carolina State, kinda. I think it's only fair that we address this before we tell you, if you don't already know, who the national champion is, the victor of the College World Series. So NC State and Vandy set to play when a player or more test positive. And I think at the beginning they were trying to do a little of that contact tracing and things like that and figure out exactly what happened. So North Carolina State and Vandy were able to play the first game, but it was delayed, I guess, while they were deciding whether or not the game could be played because of the COVID protocols or whatever.
NC State had 4 positive tests going into the game on Friday, which left them with 13 eligible players in that game. They used 12 of them. The 13 players were the ones who were vaccinated. And then They went on to play. Like I said, they used 12 players. They lost that game 3-1. After the game, the 13 vaccinated players were also tested because the rules were if a player was vaccinated, it need to be tested. It was only unvaccinated players. And 4 more players tested positive, and then that made the NCAA decide North Carolina State could not go on.
Right. So it became the next game was a no contest is what they called it. And Vandy walked into the finals.
They sure did.
Vandy probably didn't deserve to be there. They played well enough at times, but they had, during the World Series, they'd only been batting like about 217 as a team. They weren't blowing anybody away. And much could be said of Mississippi State. They made it in there. They were batting 215 as a team through the World Series, and they had to get creative to win the games to get them to the finals. So I believe that Mississippi State earned their way in playing scrappy baseball. Vandy, it's almost like getting a bye.
Yeah, it really is. It's unfortunate that this happened to North Carolina State, but I think in some ways there obviously was, things weren't being, maybe the precautions weren't being done, or they weren't, I don't know. Nobody knows how they got COVID. And they did report that 8 of the NC State baseball players who did test positive tested with the Delta variant, which is really highly contagious. And NC State, a lot of their players, they said, the NCAA, they took it away from us. It's not fair. NCAA, they really didn't have a choice. They have to keep the other teams healthy and safe. And when you have that many players testing positive, it's a given that you're going to be, the no contest, you're going to be out. And it's unfortunate for NC State because they were doing so well. I mean, they beat Arkansas.
They seem like a team of destiny.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, they didn't look across the bracket to see that Mississippi State was probably more a team of destiny by the way that they were winning in the games that they were playing.
Yeah. Yep.
I heard another thing to finish up with this COVID idea is that there was some people critical of the fact that they had no restrictions on the fans. They had full crowds. They broke records. I think it was over like 370,000 total attendance for the whole thing. And they were filling up the park every day, or Mississippi State fans were anyway. So I'm not really sure, how they respond to that, but they put it all out there. They said, these are the rules. This is what you have to do. And if you don't follow these protocols, this is what happens.
Well, and NC State should have known this because earlier in the season, during the regular season, they had a series canceled when they were going to play Duke because of COVID. And it was NC State that had some players test positive at that time.
So
they should have known. Yeah, they were repeat offenders. They should have known. And of course, there's always the back and forth. Well, we can't tell our students to get vaccinated. And then they said, but some of these, they were vaccinated, but you don't know, were they fully vaccinated? Did they only get one shot? That's the big difference. So there's a lot there, and it can become political, but it shouldn't be, because they should have known.
Right. They should have known that, regardless of the politics of it. You were told this is when it's going to be. It happened throughout the season. It was a really weird season that way because games were being canceled, series were being canceled. Some teams played a lot more games than others, but they got through it. And I'm going to tell you, this College World Series was one of the most exciting and crazy ever. So let's get to the games. Vandy and Mississippi State, they met for 3 games during the regular season, a full SEC final. Vandy took 2 of the 3 from Mississippi State, and they would take game 1 of this series with Jack Leiter on the hill and doing himself a lot of favors. He pitched really well. The only thing I had an issue with is the way that he comes off the mound. He falls off the mound and then does a little skip dance. And I feel like that's a recipe for an injury at some point.
Yeah, Jack Leiter had a good game. Vandy helped because they scored 7 runs in the first inning. But Jack Leiter, he had 6 innings pitched, 3 hits, 2 runs, 2 earned runs, 3 walks, 8 strikeouts. And then Nick Maldonado came in for 3 innings. He got his 9th save. He had gave up 2 hits, no runs, no earned runs, no walks, and 4 strikeouts. So it looked really good for Vandy. They looked strong coming out that first game.
At that point, it really felt like they were strong enough and Mississippi State was just not going to do anything. But that's only one game. Fast forward to the next night where they were weather delayed.
2 hours.
Right. I was like, I got to it a little late, and I turned on the ESPN and they were showing like UFC or whatever, and I was like, did I miss it? Or did Mississippi State test positive? What happened? Did Vandy just get the title?
Yeah.
And
I was confused too.
Next thing I know, I'm doing some stuff because, as I've mentioned, I'm moving, still in the process. So I was doing stuff connected to that, and boom, watching the Angels game, flipping around, watching some basketball. And the next thing I know, I look, and when I tuned in, Mississippi State was already up big.
Yeah.
They didn't waste any time.
They didn't. Now, Mississippi State in these 3 games, they scored first in each of the 3 games. But in this game, too, they out-hit Vandy 14-4. And they won the game 13-2. When I was watching, and then I was watching the Dodgers game, it was like 8-1. And then I look again, and it's 13-2. Like,
right.
Okay, what happened here?
Right there. That looked like the Vandy team we were seeing towards the end of the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
And even into the SEC tournament, and that they just didn't look good. The reason they made is because they had done well earlier in the season, were ranked high. They deserved to be there and defend their title, but that didn't look like a team that was ready to defend anything.
No. And their pitching really struggled in this game. Christian Little started, but he only went 2 innings. He gave up 3 hits, 5 runs, 4 of those earned, walked 4, 2 strikeouts. And then it just got progressively worse until the last guy, Donye Evans, came in. But by that point, he gave up a hit, but no runs. But by that point, it's 13-2.
If you're not, all you got to do is stop it from getting any worse. And he seemed to be the only one that could do that.
He was it because they had Patrick Riley come in. He was an inning, gave up a hit, gave up a run. Nelson Berkwich, 3 innings pitched, 6 hits, 2 runs. Hunter Owen probably would like to go back and do this again. 1 inning pitched, 3 hits, 5 runs.
Wow.
So, the Vandy, the bullpen was really struggling. And Mississippi State was just getting hits when they needed to get them. And there were some errors on the part of Vandy, too.
Well, when you have a guy on your team named Rowdy, it's really hard to not
be rowdy.
To be rowdy, to be, I think there's an expectation to a team that's got a guy named Rowdy. The only Rowdy that I know that's in like Major League Baseball be Rowdy Tellez. I think he's a Blue Jay, their catcher up there. And maybe this Rowdy Jordan will be there as well. So we fast forward. Now we're tied up in this best of 3, 1-1. Now remember, on the season, they were 2-1. Vandy took 2 of the 3 games. So who would take 2 of the 3 here? Could Vandy bounce back? Or would Mississippi State come out firing on all levels? And I have to say, their fans, they were losing their minds. And like I said, you could hardly see any of the Vandy people. I never saw them once. I'm sure they did, but I never saw them once show like Kumar Rocker's parents, who I saw a lot of in other games. But probably because they were sitting there disgusted. The dad never really did much except shake his head every once in a while. And the mom was like pulling her hair out, like a little league mom. She was doing that. But Kumar Rocker starts off tonight, and here's a guy who's expected to go high in the draft, and he does himself no favors last night. You know, I looked at the stat line, 4 1/3 innings, gave up 6 hits, 5 runs, 4 of those earned, and then struck out 6. So he gave up the 5 runs. They were okay until Mississippi State got, it's still 5-0 at that point. And they obviously had shown that their offense was anemic the night before, and it seemed that way last night. But it's still within reach, even with the 5 runs. But here comes the 8th inning, and things didn't quite go as planned for the Commodores.
No. You had Logan Tanner, the catcher, hit a home run, and Kellum Clark, the designated hitter, hit a 3-run home run that put the Bulldogs at 9. And that is all she wrote.
Pretty much sealed their fate. The Bulldogs, the Bulldog fans, the city of Starkville, who filled the stadium, they were already celebrating. They were dancing in the stands, high-fiving, whatever they wanted to do. They were excited. And once again, by then, I think all the Vandy people were pushed back and out of the way.
Yeah, they were out of the stadium.
And something that hadn't happened since 1961 in the College World Series was brewing there. Who was it that was on the mound for him? Will Bednar?
Will Bednar, a freshman on 3 days rest. And he threw 6 innings, no hits, gave up no runs, struck out 4. And then Landon Sims comes in, pitches 3 innings. It was a combined no-hitter, threw 7. And then Landon Sims gave up 1 hit. And so Vandy was out hit 12-1, and they were shut out.
I heard on the radio that was only the 5th 1-hitter in College World Series history. So they didn't fool around with it. They got to business. They scored a lot of runs. They put it to bed early, and then almost no hit. The last CWS champion in Vanderbilt, I think Kumar Rocker is like one of the only, or maybe the only player left over from the 2019 championship team.
Kumar Rocker was the 2019 most outstanding player of that World Series. And this year, it's Will Bednar, who is the most outstanding player of the 2021 World Series. Over the series, he went 2-0. He had a 1.47 ERA, 26 strikeouts, 6 walks, 5 hits, over 18 in a 3rd innings pitched. So very deserving. And he's a freshman.
I know. So you still got 3 more years of him, potentially. And they asked him if he wanted to pitch some more. Did he realize he was going to get to go at least 6 innings? And did he want to keep going? Because that was a conversation I had with somebody else tonight, was if you're throwing a no-hitter, don't you want to stay in there? And they asked him about it, and he said, I thought I was only going to go 3 or 4. I thought they'd pull me after that. And he said that the coach there at Mississippi State, who's at Chris Lemonis,
Yep,
pulled him aside and said, do you want to keep going? And he said, I knew I didn't have anything left. He said, I knew I was out of gas. And as much as I would have liked to go do it, I didn't want to jeopardize our team. I think he should have gone and kept going until he gave up a run or a hit. I mean, it didn't, not a run, but till he gave up a hit. Because what if he had done it?
Yeah. I mean, but I
He
think,
may never get another shot at it like this.
That's true. But, maybe he just felt like, he just didn't have any more gas left in the tank. And luckily, Landon Sims came in and pitched well for Mississippi State, because that could have gone another way too.
Right. It could have happened. The one hit, we've seen it before where somebody's pitching a no-hitter, they get one hit, and then the wheels fall off the bus. So congratulations to the Bulldogs, the Omaha Dogs, or the Oma Dogs, I mean, and to the 2 or 3 people that are still hanging out in Starkville. Get the parade ready for when the team and the rest of your citizens come back to town.
That's right. This is the first national championship and the school's first national title in any sport in the school's history. That surprised the heck out of me when I read that.
I wasn't surprised.
I probably heard it, but and for it to be baseball, that's even better.
I wasn't surprised as in the course of big name sports, because they're an SEC team. And they're not, they could be good, but they're not competing with Alabama, Auburn, those kind of teams, LSU. They're not competing with those teams for like football. They might be, they've had probably some fair to above average basketball teams, but for them, maybe they would have won in some other kind of side sport. So this is cool that they did in baseball, and they've become kind of a perennial team there in Omaha, and people are probably figuring that they're going to be calling it Omaha Vegas or Oma Vegas today, like they call Stark Vegas. For
me, the College World Series always has the one team. They call it the Cinderella team. I don't know Mississippi State necessarily was Cinderella team, because that would have been more like
they were kind
New
of a
Jersey
top team
Institute
of
Technology.
The Highlanders.
Yeah. But they've been there, but for them to be now, they, won, and it was their first national championship in any sport is really cool. So that's the kind of stuff that the College World Series brings out, has those stories. And that's why it's such a great tournament. One of my favorites.
And Omaha does a good job in hosting this event. You don't think about baseball and Omaha because there's no teams, no major league teams there. Kind of landlocked in the middle of everything. Why go to Nebraska? College World Series. That's why you go to Nebraska.
That's it.
All right. So let's just briefly take a look at the sticky. We know that the rules are in place now. We know that stop and frisk is part of every game. We know that people like Joe Girardi answered your question. Can a manager challenge? Yes. He, after Max Scherzer had been checked probably a dozen times or 3, he called out and asked for him to be checked again.
Yeah, and this time, Joe Girardi said, well, I've watched Max pitch lots of times, but I've never seen him rub his hairline as much as he was rubbing his hairline or touching his hairline in this game. So one of the umpires had been fortunate, I don't know, maybe Max Scherzer has nice hair, had to go and check his hair. And to me, it's like, when you were in school, in elementary school, and the nurse came in and they had to check you for lice.
Yeah.
That's what it reminded me of.
That's what it seemed like. So the next night, and in more trying to be funny about it, Max Scherzer and a few of Bryce Harper's former teammates asked for his hair to be checked because he uses a lot of product in his hair, and it can get sticky and it can get weird. And so they made it a point to do that. It was all in fun because the night before when Joe Girardi, Max Scherzer got mad, was like glaring at him. And Girardi started to come out of the dugout to confront him. And they put a stop to that and tossed him out of the game.
Yeah.
So,
well, and Joe Girardi said, "Oh, it wasn't Max Scherzer. It was another coach that I used to coach with, and now he coaches for the Nationals. And I was going to go talk to him, but I think that was just a ruse." But Joe Girardi has no regrets about asking for Max Scherzer's hair to be gone through.
I need a DNA test.
Yeah.
I need get a follicle.
Everything.
Yep. And in that, Max Scherzer got a little upset one of the times because, you're pitching, especially after you give up a lot of runs or you didn't have good stuff. You feel like, isn't it clear that I'm not using anything? He came out there throwing things on the ground. He had his glove. Here, look at him. He undid his belt.
His belt. Yeah.
And then Sergio Romo of the A's went one further and took not only his hat and his glove, but then dropped his pants.
Yeah, he dropped his drawers, not all the way down, but close enough that the umpire's like, okay, come on.
So everybody's mad. You want to be left alone. The pitchers obviously still want to use stuff. And then we finally got what we were all waiting for. The first player tossed out of a game under the suspicion for allegedly using illegal substances. And that would be Hector Santiago of the Mariners.
And a former Angel. I will just throw that in there. Yeah, he, umpire said the inside palm of his glove was sticky. Now, Santiago says it was rosin and sweat, and he wasn't going to, use anything. And they took the glove. He was ejected. They took the glove. They put it in a plastic bag.
An evidence bag.
Yes, an evidence bag. Taped it up, wrote on it. And it really looked like a garbage bag to me. But,
right. Yeah, they just took one. Oh, hey, get that out of that can over there. Just dump the trash right into the can and put the glove in there.
Yeah, that's it looked like a white kitchen trash bag.
Right.
But we'll say evidence bag. And so he was
that's
he
a
was
Manfred
ejected
evidence bag.
Yeah. So there's probably sticky stuff like in the bag.
Already
to go that way.
Bag.
Yes. Yeah. I think that in every ballpark, this song, Kenny Loggins' song, needs to be playing. I'm all right.
Nobody worry about me.
That's right. Why are you going to give me a fight? Why can't you just let me be?
Exactly. Yep. That would be perfect.
I think every ballpark. So just play this song when the pitchers are getting checked. It just fits. And I think it should be the new theme song for the sticky pitcher checkup.
And then they should go on to the whole part of, go ahead and get you a job.
Yeah.
Because whatever you're doing ain't a job.
No.
And calling it your job still don't make it right. Sorry, that's
a
John Cougar Mellencamp song. I'm Kenny and John. It's 80s legends.
Yeah.
Here on SRBB, KSRBB, with the 80s legends.
Kenny and John.
Kenny and Cougar.
That's right. Now, was he going by Mellencamp, John Cougar Mellencamp, or was he just John Cougar? I don't remember.
He was, in the early 80s, he was John Cougar.
Right.
So like when Jack and Diane and Hurt So Good, that was John Cougar. But with the song I was quoting, he was at John Cougar Mellencamp at that point.
Okay. So, all right. Yeah. So I think, there's songs that they play when they have the challenges. think this should be just, every DJ or music department, whatever they have in the stadium, have this queued up whenever the pitchers get checked.
I think when they do that, they should also, another Kenny Loggins song that would be good for like the replays and stuff like that is This Is It.
Yeah.
Make no mistake who you are.
That's a good one.
You're going no further.
Yeah.
Before
I like
it's
that
over
one.
and done.
Kenny. Kenny Loggins. So good.
So you get that Clayton Kershaw coming off the mound on Kershaw Day. 8 innings. Comes
13
off the
strikeouts.
and he's getting cheered. And he even told the umpire, you're about to get booed because they were applauding me, giving me a standing ovation, and you're stopping me to stop and frisk.
Yeah. Yeah, and they did. He told them, said, listen. And then after that, he walked back to the dugout. They continued to cheer. He waved at the crowd, and that was it. But, yeah. I mean, the umpires are doing their job. That's what they've been told. You got to do this. It is a rule. Obviously, it was a rule that nobody paid attention to. It'll be
the illegal
interesting.
substance rule is not something they just now threw at them because they're all talking. Why'd they put this in the middle of the season? Guess what? It was there at the beginning of the season. They just haven't been enforcing.
Ever. Yeah. They've never been enforcing the rule. And I think that's probably why a lot of people said, why put it in the middle of the season? I've said the same thing, other than it was Manfred who's like, this season, I don't like these no-hitters. There's too many no-hitters, and we got to do something. It's like P.T. Barnum. We got to bring in another, act, and that's what they're doing. It's another act.
Well, if he's trying to reach a goal of more offense, like a lot of the rules we've talked about in past episodes, that's supposed to create more offense, this has created some.
Yeah.
Numbers are up. The offensive numbers, runs scored per game, strikeouts are down a little bit. Hit batsman has not gone up like some of these pitchers and people have said.
Yeah.
It's not in the big picture. If you look at one number, it seems minuscule, but when you think of how many balls are thrown, how many pitches, how many innings are played every day, it adds up, and it really is significant in some way that they thought that it wasn't. They thought it was going to be a disaster, and it hasn't completely been. And I think you can tell some of the pitchers that haven't really had any issues since all this came up versus how many pitchers all of a sudden are having issues since mid-June.
Garrett Cole.
Well, when you do the Elaine Bennis dance around the question about have you ever used spider tack, I think that
I am waiting for the tell-all book from Bubba Harkins.
Bubba and Josh Donaldson are going to get together to write this book.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the ugly. What a great segue. Bubba and Josh taking us to the ugly. And neither one of them, Josh has got a better chance, obviously, than Bubba, will be having to wear this year's all-star uniform. Every year there's usually, and for a while, it's not always been this way, but they wear, especially for like the all-star, like for the home run program or for the Derby or something, they'll wear, even if they're not in it, they're hanging around, they'll wear a National League jersey or an American League jersey. This year, the jerseys that are absolutely hideous will be worn during the game. And I think the uniform shirts have been described as polo shirts.
Polo shirts. Yeah, I think that's the best way to describe them, but normally they're described as garish, ugly, hideous. That's
You must be an
normally how
English
they
major because nobody uses garish.
garish, hit and miss, a big E for Manfred.
That's an unforced error.
Yeah.
Nobody pushed him into that corner. It's like he saw the ball coming to him and misplayed it completely. And once again, he whiffed.
A big time. These uniforms have when I first saw them, I was like, what were they thinking? And I was trying to figure out what, on one side of the chest is like like for Colorado, COL, or the Dodgers, LAD. And then they'll have
Not
their
to be
logo.
confused with LED,
Right.
which is a light.
Yes. Which I wouldn't be surprised if that was put on there.
I'm wondering why it is that they would refer to the Dodgers as like young men. They're fine lads. And so they put it on their uniform.
Yes, that is correct. Lad. So I was looking at it, and it's in red down one part of the in the front. And I was like, that reminds me of something. And it reminds me of the inmates that you might see, if they're picking up trash or something, and they have like, 3 letters on the back or whatever. So like here, like in Albuquerque, they have the Metropolitan Detention Center, MDC, and that's what everybody refers to it as, MDC. Everybody knows what that is. That's the jail. So that's what it reminded me of, that they're putting all the all-stars. Yeah. All the all-stars are inmates in the prison of the Manfred prison.
It really makes me not want to have voted for Chris Taylor or Max Muncy.
Right, because now they have to we're making them wear this.
Jared Walsh not making it to that point has been saved. I mean, I think he'll still be an all-star, but he's been saved from being an all-star and the embarrassment of wearing these uniforms.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it's like, I think when they saw those, I think a lot of the players if we found it, maybe they sent messages out, don't vote for me.
Yeah.
Hey,
it's okay.
Maybe that's why the asterisks.
Oh, because then they have to wear the inmate uniforms because that's what they really are.
But all these other players were coming up with devising plans to not be picked.
Well, so they have the inmate lettering of each team. And then they have this like floral motif around the sleeves. And I thought, well, this is not the Pro Bowl in Hawaii like it used to be in the NFL. And there's flowers in Colorado, but this is like tropical,
right?
Looking.
And you've spent more time up there.
I have.
Why?
Now, if they had put a certain leaf on the sleeve,
why are you always trying to build into your new business?
Because I told you, New Mexico is open for business, and that's one of them now. But I have no part in that.
Yeah.
So just want you to know.
I know you're building your shack over there. You're going to have a little neighborhood dispensary.
Yeah, I can't do that till like next year. So I guess I'll have time to work on it.
Well, but now you can build up and work you've got so much land there where you live. You could start working on your growing.
Yeah, I have. I wouldn't have the first clue.
The ping pong room to get the lighting and all that. And
do I have to learn about hydroponics?
You might, yeah. So it's something else. You know what? Planet Head would probably love to learn about hydroponics. Make him do it.
Another hobby that's not going to happen.
So, unfortunately, there'll be some ugliness at this year's All-Star game. And it won't be a bad play. It won't be too many asterisks, although that will be extra ugly. The biggest ugly will be what the players are being forced to wear in the game instead of the traditional use of their own jersey. They represent their team there, not MLB. They represent the Dodgers, the Angels, the Pirates, the Marlins, the Orioles. Every team should have a representative at the All-Star game, except for the Asterisks.
It's time for Dodger baseball.
All right, before we get to why Jana was found wandering in the desert for a couple of days this last week, I want to congratulate the Los Angeles Clippers for doing something they'd never done before. They moved on past the second round of the NBA playoffs, and they are in the Western Conference Finals versus the Phoenix Suns. So congratulations to them. We'll keep up and see what happens if they can get past the Suns. So, rescued from the white sands of Alamogordo, nobody realized she had wandered that far. Jana was collected up and, wrapped in a blanket, even though it was like 1,000 degrees outside, because that's what they do to you when they save you. They wrap you in a blanket, and took her to hydrate her and everything, because the Padres swept the Dodgers. And I think it really kind of sent her over the edge. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes, definitely. And I didn't even watch any of those games because I wasn't anywhere where I could watch them. I just was able to pick up on the scores. And then I saw the lineups, and I just had a feeling that the Dodgers just didn't really care, or it wasn't this big of a deal to them. Obviously, for the Padres, it was a huge deal because they apparently won the World Series with the first game that they won in the series. But yeah, that's pretty much. I was dazed and confused.
Yeah, the whole team, I think, went out for the parade that was in the streets of the Gaslamp area, which is right outside of Petco Park. You'd have thought that they won. I'm surprised that at the end of the sweep that San Diego wasn't in flames. That's how, when you saw the footage from the happiness of the fans, it really did seem like they had won something. They were champions of the world. But I've come to a conclusion with this Dodgers-Padres thing. Is the Dodgers don't have to beat the Padres. They don't have to beat the Padres at all. Let them win. You go and beat everybody else, because when the Padres aren't playing the Dodgers, they tend to have some really not good games.
Yeah, that is true. It's interesting. I mean, they do really well in Petco Park, so they play well at home. But they have had some games that are lopsided. And then when they go out on the road, they're not the same team they are versus the Dodgers. So that's what they get all their energy. I mean, look at Manny Machado and the plays that he was making. I mean, he couldn't even run to first base when he was a Dodger. And now he's in the outfield and making catches and sliding across the grass. He couldn't be bothered when he was a Dodger. But now that he's playing against the Dodgers.
Right. And you would think that he had been like committed to the Dodgers, was a longtime Dodger. And when they let him go, it was earth-shattering. And he feels like the need to get back at them.
Yeah, there does seem to be that because, I mean, he was a rental. Everybody knew he was going to be a rental.
He was, 2 months?
Yeah, I think it was about 2 months. They got him after the All-Star break, And there was no secret that he was a rental. But maybe he was upset that they didn't re-sign him, but they knew he knew he wasn't going to be re-signed because Corey Seager was coming back. So I don't know. He's deluded. Manny Machado is in his. And then I saw a thing where Jace Tingler was talking about Manny Machado, and he said, "Oh, he's a bad man. He's a bad, bad man."
I saw that too.
And I just laughed.
He is. He's bad. He doesn't hustle. He's got a bad attitude. You're right, Jace Tingler. He is bad, but not the way that you're saying. He's not like Dirty Harry bad man. He's not Liam Neeson in Taken bad man. He's just, he's bad. He did have 2 really good games, though, in the series.
Yeah, he did. Well, I was going back over the Dodger lineup, and in the first 2 games, Gavin Lux hit second, which doesn't make any sense to me because he went 0 for 3 and 0 for 2 in that spot. And I know he had some injuries. Max was out. And Cody was out. They were getting their way back from the IL. But I was trying to figure out what Dave Roberts was thinking there. Because he's not, he's shown, he can hit a home run or, get a single or double, here and there. But he's not consistent enough to be in the number 2 spot. And that
you might as well
showed.
just be batting Albert leadoff and then Lux in second. If you're going to start doing stuff like that, yeah, it kind of throws everything off. And some of these guys get into grooves and they got to be kind of in the same spot. They're following somebody. You can move them around a little bit, but
yeah,
I felt like that. I felt like Doc mismanaged this whole thing, and I felt like the players were kind of lackluster. Mookie and Will Smith both hit home runs in the first game, but they only had like 3 total hits.
Yeah, that was it. And because you look, it was Mookie and Will Smith were 1 for 4. Everybody else in the lineup went 0 for. And when you looked at this lineup and you think, well, you're going against the Padres, they're in third, they're behind you, so you want to put some distance between between the Dodgers and the Padres. This lineup does not reflect that sense of urgency that I think fans feel when we look at the standings.
Yeah, we apparently feel it more than the players and the organization does, and maybe that's a good thing. They don't match up again till what, August or September. So
yeah, it'll be a little while, which will be good because I'm actually glad that I wasn't able to see these 3 games. And I didn't even watch the highlights because I just can't stand to watch the antics of the Padres. So, and their fans. So I was good to be in the desert wandering.
Yeah, it was it just really I had a hard time when I watched it because it didn't really feel like they were trying to do anything. They were relatively low scoring games. Somebody did something every night. But Julio didn't pitch well. Kirsch was okay but not great. And then Trevor Bauer, he was okay, not great, not as good as the previous outing. It just was, and you got to give it to the Dregs that they were up for it. Jake Cronenworth and Manny Machado both had big games. Two of the games, 1 and 3, they were both, I think in game 1 they both had like 3 RBIs and a home run. And both Cronenworth and Machado had home runs in the third game along with Victor Caratini, who was kind of their spark plug in that game. Max had 1 game where he was up. CT3 contributed the most in game 2. Cuz hit a home run. But overall, it wasn't like, sometimes you can say those things happened and it was good because it was a victory. But in this case, I had a hard time just based off of those 3 games considering a player of the week because nobody played like they really cared to even be playing baseball.
Yeah, it was hard. When you look through, I mean, it's almost like, well, I'm just going to throw those stats out because they're not great. And then you look at starting pitching between Urias, Kershaw, and Bauer. They gave up 7 home runs. Bauer gave up 3 on his own. So, and then strikeout wise, Kersh and Bauer, they had 7 strikeouts for Kershaw, 10 for Bauer. Urias has been not great in his last probably 3 starts. So coming into San Diego, probably not the best thing for him, unless he was going to totally turn it around, which he didn't because he only went 4 innings and gave up 6 hits and 6 runs, and which San Diego won that game 6-2. Darvish was the winner there. He seems to be comfortable in San Diego, so yeah, not much to.
Yeah, he pitched really well in that game. Only gave up 2 hits and 1 run, in his time in the game. So yeah, he looked good. But I realized as I started looking at their record, they're dominating the Dodgers, but that's just 19 total games of the season.
Right.
And like I said, they're not playing well overall. They go on streaks. Like I said, at home, they do that. They're not a great road team. Even at home, they'll fall apart. But so they get up versus the Dodgers. At the end of it, it doesn't matter what happens in San Diego if the Dodgers are in the World Series again. As long as the Dodgers go farther than the Padres, who cares what happened in San Diego?
Right. Nobody cares. Nobody
But
cares.
that was what I thought going in was it was a chance to build yourself a little cushion between, because you had the Padres there and the Giants coming up. I thought that's a good place to gain some ground on both. And, they obviously didn't do that with San Diego.
No, and I think that anytime they're going, I mean, obviously if they're playing the Rockies, well, even if they're playing the Rockies and the Diamondbacks, it should always be within your division. You want to win those games. I'm not saying that the Dodgers went into San Diego and said, yeah, if we win it, we, win some games, that's fine. I think that it was a wake-up call for the Dodgers moving forward, being swept in San Diego, because that's not who they are. But I think there needs to be more, maybe not such intensity as we know the Padres have against the Dodgers, but maybe a little more thought goes into the lineup for Dave Roberts.
Yeah. That definitely needs to happen. They need to play more like they did in that first game. The first couple of games that they played them of the season. Yeah. And just kind of, it's like that father-son basketball game, one-on-one, or brothers or best friends when they're when they're playing each other. It's like, okay, we let the little brother win, or the dad let the son win. Now it's time for dad to show how it's really done. And
yes,
now that's what they need to do the next time they see them. They need to finish up the last 2 series with them and just dominate them, to remind them that the Dodgers they're not to be trifled with. So
I would like to remind everyone that Blake Snell only pitched 5 innings.
Yes.
Just to
once again, not going any distance, but he did tell everybody that he was planning on having a monster second half.
Yes, I'd like to see that. I think that's 4 innings.
I'm going to go 5 2/3 innings.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. I heard him say that, so that'll be interesting to watch what he does with his monster second half.
Right. All right, so the Dodgers escape from San Diego, head back home, and everybody's like, thank goodness we're out of there. Let's get ourselves back right. We got the Cubs coming in. Not that the Cubs are a pushover because they're fighting for first with the Brewers in the Central. And they've got some big bats there, but it was kind of like, hey, let's this will be better. We're at home and it's not the Padres.
But
It's not the Giants.
right, but the Cubs also had beat them in Chicago. And some of those games were kind of embarrassing, like with Kershaw, only going, like an inning?
Yeah, he went that, didn't, and they got swept in Chicago.
And they did. They got swept. So you'd think, okay, revenge time. They're in our house now. We're gonna show them what's what.
And after 139 games without being shut out, the Dodgers have now been shut out twice in consecutive weeks. And after this game, everywhere around here, it was the sky is falling, the wheels have come off the bus. It's the end of the dynasty.
Yes, it's the end of the world as we know it. Oh, sorry.
Right, and you're wandering the desert.
And we don't feel fine.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. And it wasn't even just like a regular shutout. No, this one, while it wasn't traditional in its sense, it took 4 pitchers, and 3 of them didn't even know what was going on because from the Dodger bullpen, they couldn't see the scoreboard.
Yeah. Yeah, that was funny. They had no clue what they had walked into. And, that it was a combined no-hitter.
Yeah, it was combined 4 total pitchers. Zach Davies did most of the work. 6 innings pitched, walked 5. There was a total of 8 walks in the game. So far from a perfect game. But the Dodgers looked more anemic in that game versus the Cubs than they did at any point in the series versus the Padres. So I don't know what was going on. Maybe they were demoralized. Maybe they had to wait for the Padres championship parade to go by before they could leave Petco Park on the bus, and they just were feeling bad about the whole thing. At that point, I think a lot of people were beginning to say, do the Dodgers care? I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's a fair question because they were in San Diego. They lose 3 games. They come back to Dodger Stadium. They're at home. They should win. They certainly should not be shut out. And it was just a continuation of the downfall of the Dodgers in that game 1.
Yeah, it was. And at that point, you start wondering, will the Cubs own the Dodgers again? And to make it worse, it was a 4-game series. So at that point, you're thinking,
yeah,
okay, well, that's 1 down, and it looked just terrible. We know what the Dodgers are capable of doing, but are they going to win 1 and drop the other, the other 2 after that? What's going to happen? They're going to have they're going to get swept again?
I will say that after the combined no-hitter, my first thought was the Dodgers are going to win the next game because most teams after a no-hitter don't win the next game. I don't know the stats. I'd have to, that's just my own little theory.
Okay.
So, but I thought the Dodgers are going to win. Now, were they going to win the 2 games after that? I wasn't sure, but I knew they were at least going to win the game after the no-hitter.
And you were correct.
Yes.
Tony Gonsolin came out through 4 innings. That one kind of turned into be a bullpen game as well. 7 total pitchers used. But 4 innings pitched, 1 hit, 1 run, and struck out 7. So he's getting consistently better. If you look over each of his outings, he's going about the same distance, that 4 innings mark. But he's giving up less runs, less walks.
More strikeouts. And I think maybe this is all part of his rehab. I don't know how bad his shoulder injury was. I'm assuming it was not great because he was out for so long. And so maybe this is part of Mark Pryor's continued ramp. So as Tony Gonsolin throws, he's at 4 innings. Okay, maybe we can see if he can go 5 and, just continue to extend him out as he gets more comfortable, which he's more comfortable on the mound now.
Yeah, he's kind of doing that spring training thing in real time now where you get stretched out and everything. Jake Arrieta, former Cy Young winner, went up against him. Only gave up 2 runs. He gave up 2 runs in 5 innings pitched. But the Dodgers, led by Max and A.J. Pollock, both with 2 hits. Each of them had a home run and 2 RBIs. And McKinstry came up big in that one with a home run as well.
Yeah, and in that game, Cody Bellinger, he was 1 for 3, but he had a stolen base, so that was good to see after him coming off of the IL. He had a hamstring injury, so it's good to see. And also Max with the 2 RBIs and the home run, he had that oblique strain.
Oblique.
And it looks like he's doing okay with some of the cuts that he was taking. So that was really good for the Dodgers to have those 2 guys back in the lineup.
And remember, voting's over, but hopefully you voted for Max to make it to the to start the All-Star game. Definitely deserving of that. Game 3 had a little excitement to it. Alec Mills from the started out for the Cubs, facing off with Julio. If you remember, Alec Mills threw a no-hitter last year versus the Brewers, and he went 4 innings, gave up 8 hits and 2 runs. Julio had a much more Julio-like outing.
Yes. 5 1/3 innings, 5 hits, 2 runs, 2 earned runs, 1 walk, 12 strikeouts.
Yes, indeedy. Jumbo jacks for all.
Did give up a home run, but this was, I think, good for Julio and obviously for the Dodgers and the fans to see him back in, coming back into form, because I was concerned about Julio. He has done so well, and then he just kind of had those, I would say probably the last, 3 starts where he just was not really Julio.
Well, the question is, for some of these pitchers, if they have since mid-June, early to mid-June, if they've had bad outings or they're having issues, could it be due to the substance stuff that now they're not using it anymore, so it changes that? I don't know that he used anything. It's just I think that every Dodger pitcher has had more good games than bad, it seems. And then eventually it just gets to a point where they just have a couple of bad outings. And could it be...
Yeah, I think it's just that he's pitched a lot more innings than I think he's ever pitched. And I think you just get into a rough patch. It wasn't that he was pitching like it was horrible, but he was able to get out of some jams here and there. He just didn't have the stuff that I think we're all used to, and probably that he's used to.
Right.
So I don't.
Yeah, that's that's probably the case. That home run he gave up was after to one of our favorites, Anthony Rizzo. Tony took him deep, and then Max and JT both had an RBI. So going into the ninth, it's 2-2. Dodgers keep the Cubs from scoring in the top, and then in the bottom of the ninth,
It is time for Cody Bellinger to step into the box. And this is interesting because I don't think that they've had this type of game yet this season until this game. And he hit a home run, making it a walk-off home run. And the Dodgers won the game 3-2, those are the best kind of wins. You don't want to see him every night because then, for a while there for the Dodgers, when was that? Like 2019 or 28, where they just seemed to be walking off every night.
right? Yeah, it seems like 2018. I don't know. Yeah, isn't it weird that 2019 feels like it was more than just 2 years ago?
Yes, and it just feels like 10 years. Like, wasn't that so long ago?
Yeah, the 2020 felt like the longest decade in a year ever.
Yeah.
So, yeah, great end to that game. Walked it off, sent the crowd home on a Saturday. And now that everything's open, they could all go out and have their own parade or go out and celebrate a Dodger victory. Sunday's game is the game that I think everybody was really waiting for.
Yeah, well, it's Kershaw Day, and everyone loves Kershaw Day.
And it'd been a while since we had a Sunday Kershaw Day.
Yeah. And as he said, he loves being at home at a 4:15 start with the Shadows. That's the perfect game for him in Dodger Stadium. And it showed because Kershaw went 8 innings. He had 4 hits, 1 run, 1 earned run, 1 walk, 13 strikeouts, and gave up 1 home run.
To Javi.
And that is Clayton Kershaw, his resume as he walks through the gates of Cooperstown.
Right. That's classic Kersh right there. Cody Bellinger, another home run in that game, went 1 for 2 with 3 RBIs. Mookie 1 for 4 with a triple. And every time you see a triple, because they're so rare, it's a thing of beauty.
It really is. And to see him as he was running, I mean, he was determined to get that triple.
And then a first happened in this game as well.
Yeah, Zach McKinstry hit his first career Major League grand slam.
Yeah, cleared those bases and led to that 7-1 victory that they took the series from the Cubs 3-1. So basically, they end up under 500 for the week in the 7 games they played due to the sweep, but they didn't end up 0-7.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, even diehard fans, were thinking that could possibly happen just the way, it's not that they didn't have any heart and soul, because there were some moments in San Diego where they had that, and the games were not total blowouts. The first game was 6-2, but the next 2 games were, a little bit more closer. But then going in to the first game, they get no hit. I think that was a huge wake-up call for the Dodgers, because I would like to think that they're in the dugout thinking, what is going on here? This is not who we are. This is not how we play. That kind of stuff going
Right.
on.
They were David Byrne.
Yeah.
This is not my house. This is not my beautiful wife. And as they're losing that first game versus the Cubs, they're saying same
Yeah.
as it ever was.
That's right.
For their week. And the last time they played the Cubs, they couldn't win. So they were like, same as it ever was.
And I
Same
think,
as it ever
and I
was.
think with the Cubs, they had to have come into Dodger Stadium confident because of what happened at Wrigley Field. And so why wouldn't they?
Right.
But I
And
think
and
that-
the Dodgers are coming off of being swept by the Padres. You don't know what the total. You either fear them because you know that they're going to come back with a vengeance, or you go, we've seen this with them, and we've seen them crumble after things like that. So confidence levels high, yeah.
And I think with the Dodgers and the Cubs, I think they're very familiar with each other. A lot of I mean, not some of the, obviously there's different players on each team, but they've played each other enough in the postseason that I think they they kind of know. And then they have David Ross as their manager, who was a player who played against the Dodgers. So I think there's some familiarity, even maybe a little bit. I'm not saying they're comfortable with each other, but to a certain extent, they're very similar in the things that in the way they do things.
I feel like the Cubs are kind of familiar with some teams. I think some of that is because of their team chemistry.
Yeah.
And how they are. Anthony Rizzo is like the, greeter at Walmart. You come in, he's there welcoming you, giving you some hand sanitizer. This is a team with a lot of character. I wasn't sure about David Ross as a manager, but he's definitely got him playing well, and he's got a nice vibe to the team, which it took a little bit for them to settle in, but they got it. Thinking also about familiarity with the Dodgers and the Cubs, there was a familiar face that showed up when the Cubs came to town in the form of Jocelyn.
Yeah.
Jock Peterson.
Jocelyn was back. And you could tell he enjoyed being back, and the fans loved that he was back. The Dodgers have been giving out World Series rings to players that are on other teams now. And if you noticed, for example, like Alec Wood, I don't think he got his ring on the field. I think it was just done, somewhere in a room. Dylan Floro, the same way. Jock Peterson, he was given his ring, his World Series ring, before the game started on the field, and the Dodger faithful gave him a standing ovation. And I think a lot of them, including me, wish that he was back in Dodger blue.
They also gave his brother, who a lot of Dodger fans are familiar with, a ring as well.
Yeah, so his brother, Champ, it's his older brother. He is an honorary member, or was an honorary member of the Dodgers. You could see him sometimes. He was a bat boy, but he spent a lot of time in the clubhouse with Jock, and he just became part of the team. So that was a really classy move for the Dodgers to give Champ his ring. He has Down syndrome, and so he loves Albert Pujols because they are like best buds, and because of different organizations that Pujols supports. And
right, because Albert has a Down syndrome child.
Right, and so I'm sure he's probably like, Jock, you got to get back on the team because I could hang out with
so we can hang out with
Albert. But yeah, so that was really cool. And one thing I noticed, and I think some other people noticed too, is we don't have Kike in the dugout anymore. He's in Boston, and you don't have Jock. And they were the cheerleaders. They were the ones that it wasn't enough for them to just say, okay, come on, let's go, good job, pat you on the back. They were, really doing the whole, give me a D, give me an O kind of
Right.
thing.
Yeah,
And
they were kicking and jumping and had pom-poms and everything.
yeah, and I think that is what's missing for the Dodgers this year is they don't have that person in the dugout, or the players in the dugout that are the catalysts that kind of keep people loose. I've said this before, and I continue to say the Dodgers are too serious this year. It's like, well, we won a World Series and now we must be serious. Well, that's not how it works.
Yeah, you don't see that same kind of fun. And you're right. Those are the two guys that kind of led all that, especially Kike. And, you've got some other guys who have been added that are great players to be around from a baseball sense. They love the game. Two of them I can think of is Mookie Betts, and then the guy we're going to go visit at his corner,
Alberto.
So let's walk over to Albert's corner. Not a great week for Albert, but you got to figure he's had like 2 or 3 in a row. Last 2 weeks, he hit over 300 for both weeks. This week, not as great. Struck out a couple times, was 1 for 9 in 4 games, so he didn't play as much. Had a 1 walk and batted 111. So not, like I said, not a great week, but if you look back, that's standard. All players have that. They'll have 2 or 3 great weeks in a row, and then you have an off week. And he didn't play as much as he has in other weeks. So Albert continues, though, to be, he's always smiling, but he's not a rah-rah guy like that. He'll talk to you and pump you up and tell you you're great, but definitely still having an impact. And he probably talked to his guys after they got no hit, too, and said, look, this can't be happening to this team. We'll check in to see how Albert does next week, right here on Albert's Corner.
Some updates for Dodgers on the IL. Corey Seager, who they were hoping would be back in early July. Looks like the timetable for that has been altered. He has been fielding and throwing and not having an issue there. But when he is hitting, he feels some soreness and discomfort in his hand that he fractured. And he fractured his hand on May 16th when he got hit by a pitch. And so they're not sure what's going on with Corey. His fracture is healed, but he's still feeling some soreness when he's using the bat. And then Scott Alexander, who I'm embarrassed to admit, I know I mentioned this before, that I totally kind of forgot about Scott Alexander in the bullpen. He's has begun a rehab assignment in Oklahoma City. So that's good news because he's done really well. And then the other one, he's not on the IL, but we've heard of Kenley Jansen being Angry Kenley. And now we have Joe Kelly and his alter ego, Joseph, where he's very angry. And Dave Roberts likes it, and I like it too. Get some anger out there and to strike out the other team.
Yeah, if that's what it takes, pitch angry. Don't drive angry.
No.
But pitch angry.
Pitch angry.
I like it.
So, Joseph Kelly on the mound.
Joseph to the mound. They got to have some ominous kind of music.
Yeah, I think DJ Severe could come up with something, or even better, Dieter Rule with the organ would be very, dun, dun,
dun,
no,
that would be good. Dun, 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 something like that. I think, between the two of them, they could come up with something really good on that.
Yeah.
The Dodgers have San Francisco this week, so they've got a chance. It's only a 2-game set, which is kind of odd when you play other teams in your division. They've got the 2, and then off to D.C., take on the Nationals, who have been surging. They've moved up into second place. That would be all because of pretty much Kyle Schwarber, I think.
I think so too.
Primarily. So we'll get to see them the Nationals and what's going on there. I know that there's been a lot of talk, at least locally, about the Dodgers hoping that they get to make a White House visit, as has been the tradition for a few years for a lot of the championship teams. Not sure if that's going to happen or not while they're there, but they do have 4 games in D.C., and then when they leave, they'll head down to Miami for another 4. They have 8 games in a row there, back-to-back 4-game sets. And we'll get to talk a little bit about Miami, a team that we really don't talk about. They don't really have anything to share. There's not much going on down there.
Nope.
All right, so as tough as it could have been, any player of the week for you this week, or are you still brain fried from the desert?
No, I have a player of the week, and I struggled with this one because I could just go solely on numbers and go with Justin Turner, who had throughout all of the games, had at least 1 hit in every game, even those games in San Diego. But then I looked at Cody Bellinger, and he just came off the IL. He had an extended stay on the IL from April. Then he comes back. He's back, a couple of days, and he's back on the IL with a hamstring injury. But now he's back, and he's making an impact. So I'm going with Cody Bellinger for my player of the week. He was 3 for 9, so he had a .333 batting average. He hit 2 home runs. One of those was a walk-off. He had 4 RBIs, a double, and a stolen base, and this is all after he came off of the IL. And he just needs to stay healthy and be in the outfield and make those Gold Glove plays and Silver Slugger hits.
Nice. That was a great pick. I didn't go anywhere near there. I picked a player of the week solely on one thing. In fact, on 1 hit. Even though he did good on a couple others, I'm giving it to Zach McKinstry just for the grand slam. That's it. The other numbers, Cody deserves, JT, Max, those guys all did something and did it more than 1 game or 2. But Zach McKinstry had 2 home runs during the week in game 2, and then the granny in game 4, and it was first one, and that's it. I said that was a great grand slam.
I like it. Yeah, I like it. And I like Jack McKinstry. I like watching him play. He hit that grand slam, and obviously it's his first one, but of his major league career. But he just has this look of excitement when he's playing, and especially when in those big moments. So yeah, good pick. I like that. So Belly and Zach. So Cody and Zach, I guess.
Zach and Cody together again.
Sweet life.
The
That's
POW life with Zach and Cody. What I would call probably a regular week for the Angels. Not much great happened except for Shohei. And we'll take a look at his week in the Shohei Spotlight coming up in a little bit. The Angels got a look at the Giants. Finished up their season series with them, their interleague series with the Giants this week with a 2-game set to start it out. And then they hopped on their bus, I guess, because I'm sure they could have flown, but they didn't play like they flew anywhere. They seemed to be worn out, I guess, because they had a tough time when they went to Tampa Bay as well. They did get to see the Wonder rookie, the number 1 prospect in MLB, Wander Franco, when they were there. We'll talk more of that coming up. One big note, which is great to throw out there, is that David Fletcher leads MLB in singles with 68. Nobody's got more than he does right now. So he's coming back up. He's getting back into the groove. Batting last has been good for him. So let's go and take a look at what happened in the Giant series. Like I said, only a 2-game set. First game was, it's 5-0 was the loss. They got completely shut out. Andrew Haney pitched 6 innings, gave up 10 hits, 5 runs, but he did strike out 10. And we saw the return of one of my favorite Angels, Jose Quintana. And he has now been relegated to the bullpen. They got 6 hits, struck out 13 times, and 2 bases on balls. The Giants, they showed why they're in first place and why they're, the best record in baseball is because they're playing great baseball. Now, it's hard when you're playing a team like the Angels to truly see what the Giants are doing, but you can see how the team is playing.
So the next Angels game was history making for the Angels.
Why? Because it was so badly mismanaged by Joe Madden. Is that what was the history?
Yes, they took
guess what?
his.
That's been happening a lot.
They took his lineup card, and it's now going to be in the Hall of Fame for worst managing of a game. Shohei Ohtani pitched, and because they were in Anaheim in American League Stadium, you have a DH for the pitcher. Of course, the Giants had a DH for their pitcher, but no DH for the Angels because Shohei...
He doesn't require one.
He doesn't require one. That's exactly right. But he went 0 for 3 hitting. And, I mean, he pitched 6 innings, gave up 6 hits, 1 run, 2 walks, 9 strikeouts, did give up a home run. So pitching-wise, Ohtani looked good. I think it was the guys that came in after were the downfall, which seems to be a reoccurring theme for the Angels.
Yeah, that would have been Alex Claudio, who gave up no hits, pitched a third of an inning, but gave up 4 runs. Now, I will say that Junior Guerra helped with that because he inherited 3 runners, and all 3 of those runners scored. But this was a game that went into innings, 13 of them. And when we're talking about mismanagement, I appreciate Ohtani pitching and hitting, but sometimes I think because of the way the rest of the game goes, if Ohtani doesn't last very long, you've already kind of hamstrung yourself to having to use a lot of pinch hitters. Now, he went 6 innings, but you still end up having a lot of pinch hitters. And in this game, they ended up having Griffin Canning pitch hit. And then because there were no other batters, Justin Upton was his day-to-day at that point. He wasn't able to. He was there ready to go get an at-bat, but they had Tony Watson hit for himself. Griffin Canning was on base, I think, at that point. So because he didn't use the DH in that situation, all of the changes, he didn't have any bench players anymore. He was having to use, like I said, Griffin Canning to bat. He was probably going to have to use some other players. He was going to have to take a chance with Justin Upton, who was having soreness and issues that could have exacerbated whatever was going wrong with him. That's why I think it was just a mismanaged game. He pinch hit Max Stassi, pinched hit, and then Kurt Suzuki got hurt and had to come out of the game. He took a ball back off on his mask, so he got hurt. He had to leave the game. Well, Max Stassi's out of the loop now. So Taylor Ward, who caught in college, was called into action, made his big league debut as a catcher in this game. Didn't do too bad. The only real offense was Luis Rengifo's home run. Oh, and Shohei, he did hit a home run in that game to tie things up.
I think maybe I don't know, it was Joe Madden or something. They said, you know what, let Ohtani hit for himself, but not thinking of the repercussions that would happen. And you really, just from how, Stassi pinch hit, but then Suzuki got hurt. So Stassi's out. He can't go in. You almost needed, the risk, the game risk.
Yeah.
You almost needed, each player, and he's moving them, all over the board to figure out where they can go. And he obviously didn't have that.
No, he didn't have that. And like I said, Justin Upton was not going to play unless he had to. So he had him as like the Kirk Gibson, just not as hobbled, but they still didn't really want to use him, and they didn't have to. But it was just like, what are you doing? And obviously you don't go into any game thinking that it's going to go Zennings. In fact, they probably thought they were going to get blown out again by, a strong Giants team. In the 5th inning, it was 1-1.
Right.
In the 12th, it was 2-2. So they ended up with this. I don't know. It was really strange. And in the 13th inning, Zenning, that is, they scored 7 runs. The Giants did. Now, here's where we almost had this game at 4-3. Juan Lagares came in. It was an infield hit. He's trying to score, and they called him safe at the plate. He was a split second too late. It went to replay, and they were talking, are we going to have a replay walk-off? They did not, because he was out. Buster Posey had tagged him before he got to the plate, just barely, but it was clearly, at that point I'm hoping maybe there's too much dirt and they can't see it, and they're not going to catch it, and it can't be overturned. No, he was out, and he was out. It's just simply that, and it just got away from him. And then, like a lot of times, once you start giving up runs, they were just hemorrhaging those runs. And it was, Mike Tauchman, Steven Duggar from the Giants were the big ones. They both had 3 RBIs each. Kevin Gossman, who's probably runner-up to the Cy Young if he continues on, he'll be holding Jacob deGrom's cape for him as the runner-up. But he went 7 innings, 4 hits, and a run. The Giants have to be happy that he took their qualifying offer.
Definitely. Yeah. I think that was a good move on the part of the Giants to keep him there.
Yep. So that's just it was a tough game. A tough series for him, but it wasn't them getting swept by the Giants wasn't like what happened with the Dodgers and the Padres. It was more expected. So then the Angels go to play another top team, the team leading the AL East, the Tampa Bay Rays, who had just called up Wander Franco when they were in Boston the series prior. And he had come out of the gate strong, showed up at his first game in a $330,000 car. And then he looked like he deserved to be in that car in his first game. During this series, not so much. The Angels tried to get swept in this series as well. Shohei, 2 for 4 RBI and a home run. Anthony Rendon, 1 for 4 an RBI and a home run. Griffin Canning, 5 innings pitched, gave up 3 runs. All of those runs were in the first inning. So he went out leading, and then Jose Suarez gave up their go-ahead, and they lost it 4-3. Tampa Bay beat them without an extra base hit.
I think maybe they had the same anemic feeling as the Dodgers. Maybe they were on East Coast time. They were jet lagged or bus lagged. Yeah, I mean the first game they lost 4-3, but they still lost. So, and if you look at the box score, you have Shohei, Rendon, Ward, and Fletch. That's it. Those are the ones that got the hits. Everybody else, so doesn't help.
Yeah, not a solid, but a regular game for the Angels.
Yeah.
The next night was, I'm not even sure what the next day was. From the 4th to the 7th inning, the Rays scored 11 runs.
Yeah, it was not pretty. Angels ended up losing 13-3. But again, you look at the box score, who's there? Shohei, Rendon, Lagares, and Goslin had a hit. But that's it. But then you look at the real tale of the game is when you look at the pitching.
Yeah, Cobb, 4 innings pitched, gave up 6 hits and 6 runs. And then the Jose's, Quintana and Quijada,
Jose's
gave up 7 runs between them. And Quijada gave up 5 runs on 3 hits.
Yeah, and he pitched a third of an inning.
Right.
He was, I mean, it's really bad. I mean, 3 hits, 5 runs, 2 walks, 1 strikeout, but not what he probably envisioned when he walked out to the mound.
I'm not sure that I believe that.
Maybe he did. He's like,
probably
okay,
just
I'm
hoping
going to give up.
I hope I don't
runs.
spike myself, is what he's saying. And it was G-Man Choi, 4 for 5 with 2 RBIs. Arozarena, 3 for 4 and an RBI. Brett Phillips, 2 for 4, 3 RBIs and a triple.
Wow.
So it was, once again though, not the same thing as when you see other teams. When you see this happen with the Angels or the Orioles or the Tigers or any of the lower end teams, the Rangers, you go, oh, okay. Because it's not a surprise, especially when they're playing one of the better teams in the league. Now in Game 3, they did try to right the ship to get ready to go see the Yankees. And the one thing you heard throughout the broadcast of this game for the Angels broadcast is the goose is loose. Phil Goslin who's the goose, had a great game, 3 for 4, 2 RBIs and a home run. Taylor Ward, 2 for 4, 2 doubles. That Shohei Ohtani guy, 3 for 4. 3 RBIs, a walk, a double, a triple, and a home run. All he needed was a single. Can't that walk count as a single so that he got the cycle?
I think they should. Yeah, I think they should totally give it to him because, and it's funny because he had that, triple. We know home runs aren't hard for him, but then the double, obviously the single was the elusive. If they could have given him one of Fletcher's singles,
right,
just to put in there.
Yeah, he could have said, Fletch could have said, I got one to spare. Here, you take it. Called up
Yeah.
to the
Just
scorekeeper. Just give him one of mine.
yeah.
Patrick Sandoval, okay, gave up 4 runs on 3 hits. One of those a home run, struck out 6. So not as good as his last couple of outings, but still solid enough that that it was okay. And they grabbed that win 6-4. Brandon Lau and G-Man Choi. I got to mention G-Man because he's one of my favorite players in the league. He got a home run. Brandon Lau had an error that led to a run for the Angels. So the Angels are going to head up to see the Yankees and then head home to play the Orioles. And they're going to have to deal with this guy. It's time for Shohei's Spotlight. So pretty standard week for Shohei, wouldn't you think? 5.6 WAR, which leads the MLB right now. He was 6 for 17 in 5 games, batting .353, 2 doubles, 1 triple, 2 home runs. He's been back and forth. He'll hit a home run and be tied with the league leaders, and then Vladdy will hit one, or Tatis will hit one, or so he's right up there in the top 3 all the times. 3 walks, 5 RBIs, struck out 7 times. On the mound, he threw 6 innings, gave up 6 hits, but only 1 run, walked 2, struck out 9, and gave up a home run in that loss versus San Francisco. And then, of course, as we talked about last week, he was the first one to commit to the home run derby, and we'll talk more about who's going to be part of that coming up in Around the League. So, Player of the Week time. Who you got?
Well, I really had to go out on a limb here when I was looking at the box scores, but I'm going with Shohei.
Yeah, that's a easy one, right? That's low-hanging fruit. But you're right. I mean, just giving you the numbers of the week, he probably could have just about been AL Player of the Week again.
Yeah.
Back to back.
I really tried to, I look through all of the box scores, and I get it all out and I do my calculations, and I just, I thought, well, maybe I could go this way, but really it came down to just Shohei again.
I have vowed to myself that if I can find anybody other than Shohei at this point, I had also added Mike Trout, and then for a little while David Fletcher, because those were always the guys that were right there.
Right.
That I would not pick any of those 3 because it was so easy. Then Fletch kind of fell off for a little bit, found his way back, and he was last week's Player of the Week. And I was able to find somebody again this week. And I can say it again. The goose is loose. Phil Gosselin is my Player of the Week. He only played in 3 games, but he was 4 for 7 for a .571 average. He walked twice, hit that home run that really helped propel them against the Rays in that last game, and 2 RBIs in that. So Phil Gosselin is my Player of the Week. And then one last thing before we head to Around the League, Mike Trout, who's been on the 10-day since May, was officially moved to the 60 days, so that way they could manipulate the roster to bring somebody else onto the 40-man roster. All of that is like mathematics, MIT, Caltech stuff as to how they can do that, and you got to have advanced degrees to figure out that. But it doesn't change his time frame. He's still going to be back around the 17th, 18th of July, which covers that 2 months because the 60 days is retroactive to whenever he first went on. So we know he's not going to be around for the All-Star game, but he'll probably still get voted in. Back in the 80s, there was a song by a band called OXO. It was called Whirly Girl. And I think the video even had some girl twirling around in it, spinning around in it. And that's another song that pops in my head when I think about Around the League. And as always, we will start out Around the League with the MLB Players of the Week. Grabbing the AL honors, Vladdy Jr.
Yeah, no surprise there. He homered in 3 consecutive games during the week, bringing his season home run total to 26. He also added 7 RBIs during the week, and he now has an MLB best 66 on the year.
Also batted .391. And in his short MLB career, this is his 3rd Player of the Week award. Grabbing his first Player of the Week award from the National League would be Jake Cronenworth of the Padres. 4 consecutive games with a home run. He also hit .391 on the week and was a major thorn in the Dodgers' side.
Yeah, he hit home runs in all 3 games that the Dodgers faced him in. And as you said, this is his first career Player of the Week. It's the Padres' 4th winner this season because they've had Tatis Jr., Joe Musgrove, and Eric Hosmer have all been Players of the Week this season.
And since we're talking about a Padres player, the D-backs did something that the Dodgers couldn't do at Petco.
They routed the Padres
to end their road losing streak, which started way back when Madison Bumgarner unofficially pitched his no-hitter, his 7-inning no-hitter. 10-1. And I wonder about this. Dinelson Lamet pitched that game, and was he so embarrassed that he was the starting pitcher to lose to the D-backs that he immediately injured himself to go on the IL?
It's possible, maybe. Maybe he did some manipulation, or he said, yeah, there's something there, it's not right, because he was embarrassed for sure. Yeah, the Diamondbacks win against the Padres ended their 24-game road skid, which is unbelievable, and you would wonder, why is Tony Lavello still the manager?
I can answer that.
All right.
Who's going to come in
That's
and
true.
change anything?
Yeah.
And I think he's in the last year of his contract.
Well, then that would make sense.
So if this is the final season and nobody's going to right this ship,
Right.
why do it now and then have somebody come in, be frustrated with the whole thing? It's clear that, and I got to give him a break too. It's not his fault that the team's as bad as it is, because they're missing quite a few players. When you only have Ketel Marte as a solid everyday player, that's their all-star right there. But Cole Calhoun's out. I think if not for the season, he might as well be by now. Not that he's gonna, he's a franchise-altering player, but he is, solid enough that he could be a standard contributor for the team. They've just had injury issues and problems, and how they lost that many in a row. I think they're already like 40 games out of first place. And I think, their season really at this point, they're just playing out the string. I don't see that even if they went on a little run, they would have to go on like a 70-game winning streak.
Yeah.
To put themselves back into the mix.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. But yeah, that makes total. I mean, who are the Diamondbacks going to find that is going to do something different than what he's already doing?
Right. We could go down there and co-manage it if they wanted to do that.
Okay.
They wouldn't even have to pay us as much as they pay Lavello.
Nope.
All right, let's stay also in Buffalo. Following up with Vladdy. Of course, as you mentioned, Vladdy is leading in home runs. Shohei's right there. Tatis Jr. And then gaining ground on them all, Kyle Schwarber, who we'll get to see play versus the Dodgers this week. He's up to, last time I saw was about 22 as of the end of this last week. So, and he's really been big for them. In Buffalo, George Springer came back. And as far as I can tell, no fatigue issues yet.
Not yet. He's had 32 at-bats. Now, this is for the whole season. So only 32 at-bats, 5 runs, 6 hits. He's hit 3 home runs. He has 7 RBIs. He has stolen the base, but his batting average is just 188. So he's slowly reintegrating himself into Buffalo, but they don't really need him. So
no, they don't. And honestly, just to break it down even further, since he's been back, he's played 5 games. He's 3 for 17 for a 176 batting average. Of those 3 home runs, he's hit 1 of them since he's been back. Struck out 5 times and 4 RBIs. So he's done a little bit more since he's been back than he did when he was back the last time. I don't know, will he get back into a groove this season? I'm sure he's been out so much more than normal that it may take him, quite a while. He didn't play for some of the season, then get injured and was out for a little bit, so it's a little easier to come back. I don't know. And then we've got Wander Franco, who made his debut. And then since he's been up, this number 1 prospect, who had a great first game. He had his Bentley game. And since then, he's been driving a beat-up Datsun. He's not even moved on to the Nissan version. He's got old Datsun B210. 3 for 22.
I thought it was going to be a Yugo.
Yeah, he's with that's 3 cylinders and only 2 of them are working, I guess. It kind of reminds me of, remember last year there was all the hype around Joe Adell.
Yes, I thought the same thing.
And he's just, he had the one game. Joe Adell didn't have one good game until later, and he didn't really, even that wasn't that great of a game. He just finally hit a home run after 900 at-bats. 3 for 22, 1 double, 1 home run, 5 walks, 5 strikeouts. And I looked at this with him over 162 games, win-loss percentage. He's only worth half a win.
Wow. That's that can do something to your ego.
And his strikeout rate is 18.5% is his K rate. So I mean, some players come in and he's a rookie, and there's a lot of hype around him. He's got to get in. He's got to figure it out. But, maybe it was too early and too much hype.
Yeah, there was a lot of hype for him, and it got me to thinking, about Joe Adell and how much hype was there, and other players that have come up, and I mean, you're like, okay, it's their first game, but they do their first game and do great, and then after that, it's bad. So a lot of people think, well, he's not going back to the minors, but I'm wondering if he might. Could he be driving his car back to the minors?
So a couple things we do every week in Around the League. One of them is the IL, and the other one is DeGrom watch. And I don't know what you think, but it seemed like it was a disastrous week for Jacob DeGrom.
It was not his best week, and he should be ashamed of himself. No.
Now, if you compared him to any other pitcher in the league, is he at the bottom now because of this week?
No, he's still at the top. That's what's so crazy.
So, yeah, I know that his ERA, which was down around 50.50, has gone up almost 20 points to .69 on the season. This last week, he threw 11 innings. He's actually pitching in Blake Snell territory. 5 innings, 1 game, 6 innings the other. Before long, he'll only be pitching 4.2. And even then, he'll still be dominating. The ERA for the week, 1.64. Gave up 2 runs on 4 hits, but he struck out 11. And really, when it comes to the ERA with DeGrom, the only pitchers that are even close, Kevin Gossman from the Giants at 1.49, Brandon Woodruff at 1.89 in the ERA leaders. Everybody after those two are over 2, or 2 are over. So DeGrom really is showing, when you look at just the numbers, it's obvious he's dominating. But then when you watch him pitch, it's even more obvious that he's dominating. And when they stopped him coming off the mound to do the stop and frisk, he's like real easy about it. He didn't go all Max Scherzer and Sergio Romo on him. He just stopped, gave him his hat and his glove, whatever else they needed. No issue. Hasn't said a word about it. He just goes on about his business. And that's why Jacob DeGrom gets his own segment in Around the League. So, Jana, last week I didn't do the IL because I know how much you love the IL.
I do. I love it. I don't like to see the Dodgers on the IL, but it's interesting as I look through. So thank you for not doing the IL so that I could do it this week.
We did it to maintain the integrity of the segment.
Ouch!
Well, we spin that wheel of the IL. And this one, the worst one, I'd have to say, is out of Cleveland. But before we get to Cleveland, we were talking about Arizona, and we were talking about their, they had the losing streak, and they beat the Padres, and we talked about Marte being the bright spot. Well, he is now on the IL with hamstring, so he has
that light is dim.
It is very dim for the D-backs. We also talked about San Diego, and in that Arizona win against San Diego, Dinelson Lamet was the pitcher. He is now on the IL with forearm inflammation. If you remember back last year in the playoffs, that was a big story. He was not on the roster, and he had inflammation in his forearm, and they did all kinds of, different things to, they gave him different shots, or they gave him some kind of like transfusions and, all kinds of different things. And now he's back on the IL with forearm inflammation. And I think the Padres just need to say, okay, Tommy John surgery is in your future and you just need to have it done. But I'm afraid that they're going to continue with their series that they did last year injections and things like that.
Yeah, at some point, doesn't it just make sense to go that route? That it's, I mean, the writing's on the wall.
Yeah, I would think so, but I think with the Padres, when you look at their starting pitching, you have Darvish, who's doing really well, and then you have Blake Snell and Joe Musgrove. Those are the three I can think of, and then Dinelson Lamet, okay, but they don't have Mike Clevenger, which was a huge, last year they kind of just went after everybody. And now and he had Tommy John surgery. I think Dinelson Lamet is going to follow him, and the Padres just need to say, okay, what's best for this player instead of trying to put a bandage on it and send him back out.
Right. And they can always go and pick somebody up in a trade. They're a contender right now.
Yeah.
And they're definitely going to be buying. I heard somebody the other day on, I don't know if it was MLB radio or another national show, talking about the Padres going after like Max Scherzer.
Oh, wow.
And if they seem to be in that going all in phase in the off season. They picked up Darvish and Snell. They've got a great, as much as we hate them, they do have a great offensive team. They've got some true all-stars out there, and their pitching staff has been great. We saw what Darvish has done. He's been very comfortable there. And them going after, if they want to go after Max Scherzer or some other pitcher that's throwing for a losing team that might be selling, they can cover that.
Yeah, they could do it. So we'll see what happens, but I think that it seems inevitable for him. Now, also looking at pitchers, we had we've had 7 no-hitters, which is unheard of in the MLB before July, and really 7 no-hitters in the season. But we have John Means, Corey Kluber, Spencer Turnbull, and Madison Bumgarner. They all threw no-hitters, but they are now all on the IL. And none of them are expected to be back until after the All-Star break. So the only guy I know, I'm thinking of no-hitters, Joe Musgrove. He seems to have not gotten into this IL stint yet. But Zach Davies, now because he threw a combined no-hitter, will it affect him, and will he be on the IL? So it'll be interesting to see. Maybe we'll do a no-hit pitcher IL watch. I'll keep an eye on those guys to see where they are.
That would be okay. I think that I wonder though, Joe Musgrove hasn't been to the IL. Joe Musgrove is a Padre. Zach Davies used to be a Padre.
Yeah.
Maybe that doesn't apply to current or former Padres.
Maybe that would be interesting to see. They're on my wheel of the IL. Now, my last guy that I'm going to highlight on the IL is Josh Naylor. Ouch! He has been a bright spot for the Cleveland Indians, has been a clutch hitter. However, he will need surgery after breaking his right ankle Sunday in Minnesota. Ouch! He collided with rookie second baseman Ernie Clement as they tried to catch a pop fly. This really emphasizes the importance of calling for the ball. This was, Josh Naylor ended up going airborne, and when he landed on his ankle and fractured his ankle. And depending on how bad he broke it, knowing that he's going to need surgery, he's going to be out for a while. I have personal experience with broken ankles and with a broken ankle and having to have surgery. So the Indians said that Naylor has a closed fracture and a dislocation, so he will be out indefinitely. I know for me, I broke my ankle in the middle of August, and I was completely out of a boot by November 1st. So it's a long time, depending on how badly he broke it.
I heard yesterday that he had to be kept in the hospital overnight because of the pain that he was feeling, and that he wasn't able to travel with the team. So he stayed there, and then he's going back. I guess yesterday he went back, and they were going to do all the stuff like a lot of times when you're injured, they triage it right there, and then they send you back home so that your local folks can take care of you.
Yeah, I hope everything goes well for him. Like I said, I know the pain, and you can't, sometimes you just break your ankle, but sometimes it's your ankle and then you tear ligaments and things like that. So it's going to be
right. There's a lot going on right there. You don't think about it, but there is a ton going on.
Yep. So best wishes to Josh Naylor as he keeps his ankle elevated, his leg elevated, and I hope he gets a cool cast. That was part of my, I broke my ankle, but I always had a cool cast.
Well, isn't that the only reason to have a broken bone is so you can get a cool cast?
That's pretty much it.
Or, now they can do they will do a lot of different things. Back when I remember as a kid, somebody showed up at school with a cast. It was just an old white plaster cast, and then everybody wanted to sign it.
Right, yeah. Yeah, it's come a long way. But that's the IL report for this week.
Ouch!
Now, to bring this around on something else, just to piggyback off of that, it's not an IL thing, but you mentioned about calling for the ball. And there's been a couple of things, and I thought about it, and then we got off on something else with the Dodgers, was Gavin Lux.
Yes.
A couple weeks ago, we talked about it. He's running out, and he's been playing shortstop in Corey's absence. He's running out into shallow left, and he keeps getting deeper. A.J. Pollock is running in. The whole time, now, Gavin Lux was focused on the ball. He knew where it was. But the whole time, A.J. Pollock is yelling.
Yes.
I got it. You can see it. You can read his lips. I got it. I got it. I got it. It's just like, and the whole time. And then Gavin Lux was like, with his hands over his ears, was how, la, 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 AJ's talking and I'm not listening. And he caught the ball because AJ Pollock backed up and stopped because he knew that Gavin Lux wasn't going to stop. But it's like, why wouldn't you, when you hear somebody, I get it if there's no communication, but when you hear the other person hollering and the outfielder's coming into the ball, you're going out and away. Not, you see some spectacular catches. Jose Iglesias has made a couple of no-look catches where he's got his glove out to the side and he ends up catching it after a long run out. But there was nobody else there. Gavin didn't need to do that, and he could have caused an injury. I would have been okay with him being on the IL, but AJ has become a pretty consistent player. I don't want to see him on the IL.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I think, and that's also been after that happened with Lux. There's been a couple of other times where you're like, don't you do it. Don't you go out there because you're concerned. But I think it's, for the most part, he's can maybe hopefully learn from that experience. But thank goodness AJ Pollock was out there. He's a veteran player. So but yeah, I mean, if you're calling and you can see him yelling and, he was so focused that everything became, nothing, there was no sound around him, or I don't know, but yeah, not safe.
You should always be able to hear your teammates, especially when he's coming up behind you. You know, that was it. And then there was another Gavin Lux thing I meant to bring up. I saw him apply a tag, and instead of getting the very first part, like the arm or the hand, and the ball was there in enough times, had he swept back and got his arm or like around his wrist or his hand, he'd have been out. But he went, as his arms completely passed him, he reached as far away as he possibly could to try to tag the guy like on his shoulder instead of getting him on his arm, sweeping his hand away from the bag. And he was safe, and so the guy got the stolen base. It's like, where did you learn how to tag people out? Who taught you that? It's like Gavin Lux, come on. And then he'll get up and he'll hit a home run. You feel okay about it. But for me, I still feel like he's an overall liability. And I wonder if, well, they'll move him back to second base when Corey comes back. So
I don't know about with Lux. You know, there's some days that you're like, oh, you know, he's doing good, and then he's got, you know, then he goes on a 19, you know, where he's 0 for 19 or, you know, in the box, and then he's making errors or he's making tags that don't make sense. And yeah, he's another one I want that you think there was a lot of hype about him, you know, number one prospect, and he hasn't looked like a number one prospect. He does, you know, has not fulfilled that. And again, you know, I guess it goes into that sports psychology, how much of this is in his head, instead of just, you know, going out there and playing to the best of his ability. But I don't know. I can't, I don't know what it's like on a day-to-day basis, but for him.
I think sometimes he carries himself like he's like one of the veterans.
Yeah.
And I went to the game, I didn't go specifically because he was going to be there. I just happened to be there, but went to the game, his first game as a Dodger when he got called up. And he started off okay at the beginning of the game. By the end of the game, he had dropped way off. Just in a game. And then he really had some issues and struggled. Like I said, obviously there's potential if they didn't have other players who could cover those spots or have the wherewithal to go get somebody better. Then be like, okay, that's fine. But he could be so much better. And they could go get better. Well. My favorite team of the week is every member of the Tigers except for their manager, because they put a stop to the 11-game win streak of the Asterix.
Yeah, you know, the Asterix were on this tear, and then you think, oh, well, they're going to play the Tigers, so it's just going to continue. But their record against the Tigers is like 2-6. I mean, it's probably more than that, but that's the last time I saw was, 2-6 against the Tigers. So it made me think the Asterix are always up to something. But AJ Hinch is the manager of the Tigers. So he knows stuff and maybe, has some dirt on them. So he can, he knows the signs. He knows what they can and can't do. So maybe there's a little more.
He knows the signals for when they're stealing signs. Unless they changed them up a lot, I'm pretty sure he knows what's going on there. And then, AJ Hinch said in an interview that he was uncomfortable with the booing and the harassment that the Tigers fans gave the Asterix.
Well, I think that the Tigers fans should boo AJ Hinch for every game. Every single game. He deserves it. Anytime he comes out on the field, he gets booed. And the Asterix deserve to be booed. And anybody who feels bad for them, they obviously aided and abetted in
I
their...
think, yeah, for sure. Talking about the Asterix being up to something, I think that there is something foul afoot. And it's not just the All-Star Game uniforms that we talked about earlier. It's the All-Star Game voting. Because they did it in 2 phases. We're just finishing up phase 2 now with the top 3 or the top 9 in the outfield, but top 3 in other positions. Somehow, the Asterix went from having a couple of guys like Altuve and Bregman, I think, were in the top 3 towards the beginning of the voting, to now having 7 players in the top players in this final vote to be starters in the All-Star Game.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. The only thing I can think of is that someone in the Asterix organization they have an algorithm, and they have all these computers set up with different IP addresses or different, however it works, and they're just voting for these guys over and over and over again. Because some of these guys you're looking at and you're like, All-Star? Martin Maldonado? No. I mean, defensively, okay, but he's not an All-Star.
You know what? The only catcher that made the final 3 that has numbers closer to All-Star, and having seen him play against the Angels, was Salvador Perez.
Yeah, that's who I voted for. So,
and he's batting about 280. He's a good catcher. He a catalyst for the Royals. He was a big part of that surge at the beginning, but he's still consistent, and he's, like I said, he's a great defensive catcher. Yasmani Grandal, he is an okay catcher. His batting average, though, was like what, 1 something?
Yeah, like 171 or 177. I mean, it was low.
The worst catcher of the group is Yasmani Grandal, and Martin Maldonado is a decent catcher, but he doesn't hit. He's very weak hitting. So how did he get in there? Along with, you know who I'm surprised didn't make it in there? Was Kyle Tucker, because he was like hanging around at 10 or 11, and everybody surged. Carlos Correa was at number 6 at one point, and he's in the top 3?
He's in the top 3. Bregman, Altuve. I mean,
Yuli Gurriel.
Oh my gosh, that one.
The only
is
thing
a
that I ever liked about him was his hair, but I don't ever, if I see the Asterix playing, he's not a name that comes up for me.
No.
I see Michael Brantley. I see, Kyle Tucker will even come up and do something. Bregman, when he's in, has Carlos Correa too. He's going to be a big name on the free agent market coming up at the end of the season. But how did these guys go from out, not even in the top 5, to 7 of them being, unless there was the Asterix had the computer thing going on, like you said, an algorithm that did that. I think their protector is trying to help them out and make them feel better because of the way they've been treated this season by every place that they go. And that's Manfred. Manfred is manipulating. It's a Manfred manipulation.
I think you're onto something there. It doesn't make sense that, we feel bad because they get booed and people yell at them and hold signs and it hurts their feelings. So we're going to do something for them and put them in the All-Star game where they're going to get booed.
Right. That's the bottom line. The people that go to the game and all the people in Denver that show up, everybody, The only way it works is if it's in Houston.
Right, and then they'll have their the people who aided and abetted them. I don't understand how you can be an Asterix fan. I just don't get it. It's just, I know people who were Asterix fans and are no longer Asterix fans because of what happened, but there's still people that are, and it just, I just wouldn't be able to do that.
Personally, I even have an issue when I look back, because Nolan Ryan was an Astro.
Yeah.
And I'll look at stuff, and I've wanted to get a Rangers bobblehead, Nolan Ryan bobblehead, because I have an Angels one, and I thought, I'll get one from the Astros. But now when I see it, I'm like, I don't even want, because people won't look at it and go, it's Nolan Ryan from back when they were a National League team, when they were, they're going to be saying, why would you have an Asterix?
And anything like that.
It's tainted even that, a Bob Watson bobblehead. These are guys who were classy players for that team, J.R. Richard. But now you look at Craig Biggio was another guy who's there, Hall of Famer. And you see that, and then you look at the team now. You know what's going on? Have you seen those pictures where, like, Carlos Correa is giving the pouting Altuve a hug?
Yeah.
And you see Altuve, they'll, if he's having a bad game or something's going on, they'll go look at him, and he's sad. He looks sad. And it's like, here's an ice cream cone, little boy. Here's, a treat for you because I don't want you to be sad. And he's like, people are booing you and talking bad about how small you are. Here, I'll give you a hug and make you an all-star. I mean, we don't know yet whether he'll be voted a starter, but
no,
they shouldn't have got to this position. I know there's something going on.
Well, and look at, so the Dodgers had 5 players going forward, Chicago, Cubs, but the Giants, who have the best record in the league, only have 3. I mean, Buster Posey obviously is leading that charge, but when you look at their team, there are guys on there that aren't, a lot of people don't know who they are. Everybody knows who the Asterix are,
right?
And not in a good way. So
any pub is good pub.
I guess
it doesn't matter what they're
Houston.
saying about you, as long as they're saying stuff about you.
That's it.
I guess, because that does put a focus on them more so, because the Giants are doing, like you've mentioned before, they're just out playing the game. It's like if you're not a Giants fan, you don't realize that Crawford has played that many games at shortstop until it becomes a record and a big deal about it. There's all these guys. He's been there a long time. If you don't see them play as often as like we have, that's an issue. So we'll see what the All-Star game results are, who's going to be the starters, and how many of them are going to be Asterix. And if there's more than just 1 or 2, I think we're going to have an issue and an intervention with MLB.
Yeah, there's something rotten at the MLB offices.
And another thing that's going to get me is that they're going to get more guys on the team because of this, that it'll stop maybe guys who are deserving, because like the Orioles, they have 2 guys that should be on the All-Star team. Cedric Mullins, who did make it into the final 9 for the outfielders, and then Trey Mancini should be an All-Star as well. He is going to take part in the home run program. And
you mean the home run derby?
Yes, the home run derby. Where's Dr. Rick when I need him? He's going to join Trevor Story, who just joined up, be the hometown favorite. And then Pete Alonso is going to try to defend his title from winning in 2019. And then, of course, Shohei was the first one to announce that he'll be in. Sadly, no Vladdy Jr. in the home run contest.
Yeah. Well, and this home run contest, this home run derby, will be worldwide. I mean, baseball is worldwide sport. You've got, Mexico and Japan and Korea, but Japan especially, because Shohei is, they have Shohei Watch on the Japanese news channels there. So they're going to be watching really closely. And this home run derby is going to be in Coors Field. And it's a mile high, so 5,280 feet. How far will those balls go?
Hey, what's that? What's that coming out of left field?
How about a 70-year-old woman who finally, after 60 years, fulfilled her dream of being a Yankees Batgirl?
Once upon a time.
Once upon a time. Gwen Goldman had been rejected by the Yankees general manager at the time, Roy Hamey, who wrote her a letter on June 23rd, 1961, that said, quote, "While we agree with you that girls are certainly as capable as boys and no doubt would be an attractive addition on the playing field, I'm sure you can understand that it is a game dominated by men. A young lady such as yourself would fill out a place in a dugout," unquote. So current Yankees general manager Brian Cashman said he had been forwarded an email written by Goldman's daughter Abby, and in a letter dated June 23rd, 2021, Cashman wrote, "It is not too late to reward and recognize the ambition you showed in writing that letter to the Yankees as a 10-year-old girl." So Gwen Goldman got her shot. She had her full Yankees uniform on. She threw out the ceremonial first pitch to New York player Taylor Wade. And then she stood alongside manager Aaron Boone for the national anthem. She also posed with the umpires when the lineup cards were brought out. Pretty cool for Gwen Goldman, 60 years later, living her dream of being a Batgirl for the New York Yankees.
And that'll do it for this week's Sibling Rivalry Baseball podcast.
Remember, you can find us on our website, siblingrivalrybb.com, and on Facebook and Instagram at Sibling Rivalry BB.
We're also on Twitter at Sibling Rivalry BB without the A. Email us, show@siblingrivalrybb.com. We'd love to hear what you think, so subscribe and rate us wherever you listen to our podcast.
Next week on SRBB, will it be oohs and ahs or boos as America celebrates its independence?
Is that booze or booze?